Today I'm going to look at this Hobbyking Swiss J3 Cub 1.4 meter wingspan RC airplane. It's a nice scale looking one, and I've actually done some modifications prior to flying this one. So this one doesn't come with a pilot, which I think it's just stupid not to include a pilot in a scale RC airplane. So I've put in this guy in front of this one, which does actually fit quite nice. This one comes from Pitchler, and I've also modified the brace wires for the tail section. So these brace wires are just supposed to be tied into the brace mounts, but I actually used some springs to have this one easier to assemble and looking much nicer. Another thing that is really stupid also is that when you mount the wheels on this one, there's insanely a lot of play. When you have them, and the manual does actually recommend you to have some sort of collar to stop the wheels from moving. So I have some spare parts, and I put the collars on the wheels so they doesn't move. So I mean a few issues, and I think overall a little bit more difficult to assemble this one than, for instance, especially E-flite RC airplane, which are really simple, and maybe a tiny bit more difficult to assemble it compared to many FMS RC airplanes. But I mean, I think it's time to Maiden this one, so let's go to the flying field and get a flight down on this one. Another Cub to look at, this time the Hobbyking 1400mm. So just doing some ground handling just to check it out, and it appears to be a bit touchy on the tail wheel, so it's a little bit difficult to actually have this one running straight. Let's line this one up for takeoff and just push it. Gentle elevator, and it's just up in the air. I'm going to start to push this one. It is surprisingly agile, this Cub. And it does inverted flying with ease. I'm going maybe like 80% throttle. I don't think it's always good to have a bit of reserve power. I'm just exploring agility, and this one has no problem doing anything in the usual aerobatic things I do, at least. And the timer is set for 5 minutes, which is my usual time to set timers. Most planes does actually fly 5 minutes or more. And as you see, I'm just trying to make tight turns close to the camera. And in this plane, there is just no hesitation, just does everything with ease. It's a really nice flying Cub. Agile, and I know that if you have an agile RC airplane, it's no problem just to slow it down and fly scale. So it's more difficult to actually have a Cub that isn't agile and try to make it agile than have an agile RC airplane that you can just tone down. As you can see, just no problem doing anything. It's just really fantastic flying RC airplane. And certainly you can slow down. Doesn't feature flaps, but you can have some nice scale, slower flying. Just remember, when you fly slow with this one, try to do rudder turns as much as you can, because the rounded edges of the wing of the Cub is known to have you tip stall the RC airplane. So keep up speed and make rudder turns as much as possible. And it looks really nice, this Cub. I'm not a fan of blue RC airplanes really, because I think red is a much nicer and more visible color, but regardless, this one looks really nice.
Time remaining 1 minute.
So 1 minute left on the timer. It's time to think about getting this one down. Line up to do a landing. Oh, I have the wrong angle. Just go around and make another attempt. Let it drop. Reduce throttle. Let it drop it some more and flare. Yeah, nice. On the mains, and the tail dropped at last. So this Hobbyking J3 Cub 1400mm is just a fantastic flying RC airplane. Agile, speedy, wide flight envelope. It looks nice, especially since I added a pilot inside. Did some modifications. So it's a really great RC airplane, this Cub. Honestly, I was a little bit uncertain about the result when flying this Hobbyking J3 Cub. But I shouldn't really be worried, because I have experienced that this plane, it just flies fantastic. Just as the FMS J3 Cub in the same 1400mm size I tried a while ago, this one flies equally great really. The thing is about, if I would compare this one for the FMS, then the FMS is only a 3S compatible RC airplane, and you can frankly not fit any larger battery than a 2200 milliamp battery, because the battery compartment is so narrow and so small, tiny. And on the other hand, this one is both 3S and 4S compatible, and it does feature this really nice battery hatch underneath. And inside there's actually the receiver and everything is mounted inside, but you put the battery in the forward compartment, and it's all balanced, and you can, I suppose you can put at least a 3200 milliamp battery in at least a 3S range. Maybe you can fit also a 4S 3200, but this battery place is actually really nice. Plus that you have this battery hatch does actually feature a kind of a latch mechanism, so when you close this one, it does stop the battery from moving to the rear. So it's a really great hatch for the battery and place for the battery really. And you only have one place where you have the receiver and you have the and put the battery. And as I use the Spektrum system, I have a Spektrum AR630 inside. It does feature AS3X and safe, although I think that safe is really not needed because it flies so great. And then again, if I would compare this one to the FMS, then which flies on 3S, and this one does fly on both on 3S and on 4S, because this is a little bit heavier than the FMS J3 Cub. So this plane does, it's not as slightly loaded, so the 4S on this one is more compatible like 3S on the FMS. So I think if you have 3S on the FMS, which is the maximum cell count you can have on that plane, and you have 4 cell on this one, I think that they are almost equal. Maybe this one has a little bit more edge, but they are so close. So on 3S it's a little bit less agile than the FMS, but on 4S it's maybe a tiny bit better. And as far as the looks go, I think the blue is not as great as having red, like on my this one, which is actually my FMS. So this one featured the, as you can see, the red wingtips, and this one featured the blue wingtips. So if I would, you know, really pick and choose, I would certainly choose this FMS J3 Cub instead. And speaking about a couple of differences between these two RC airplanes, because they are so really similar. First of all, I think the landing gears on the FMS is much better. I think the cowl detail on this one is much better. I also think that this one does come with a pilot, does have the fuel tanks. So overall, I think the FMS wins as is. But then again, I have improved, like putting the pilot inside. And I think you can actually put a better screw on the front end, because this is just a plain screw, so you can have some sort of spinner cap. And I think the landing gears on these wheels are actually larger than on the FMS. They are really sturdy, so I don't expect them to break really. These struts also, you actually screw this end and this end in. But on the middle part, this is only shoved into the holes on the wing. So these can actually pop out if you have like a rougher landing. So maybe a bit of glue to just hold them in place. I would like to see some sort of you know, screw mount or a click system or something, but it doesn't feature that. But I mean, just as far as flying, this is super fantastic. It's really fun. It looks great in the air. So I mean, I think it's just a great flying J3 Cub from Hobbyking.